Hello friends, this is Growl. In this series, I start with a brand new character in World of Warcraft. No previous achievements, no gold, no anything. Fresh at max level with no connections to see how far I can go. The one catch, I recorded every single minute of the journey and I explained my thought process and decision making along the way. Whether you're just looking to improve your skills and pug your way up, or you just want to come along for the ride, I hope you guys enjoy. Now we continue on. So on today's to-do list, we're going to keep queuing for dungeons. Our goal is just to be slamming out dungeons, both to kind of teach you guys some stuff and also just get some gear. And also we want to do the Night Fae campaign stuff because we need to get our Covenant ability. We tried in the previous video to skip stuff. Did not work. Here we are. Fly away. We'll keep. Oh, Insta. Alright. Alright, today's gonna be a good day then. Nope, guess not. We're in Plaguefall. Like our friends started the key with not full health. That's okay. Ready to slam. Check out this guy. He's got 30,000 health. About the same as me, a little bit more. Let's see where we're headed. Looks like he might not know where we're headed either. Sneaky. So sort of what I was saying earlier about skipping through stuff. It looks like we have some friends. Looks like we have some friends. I'm just gonna press. We got two mages. I was thinking about pressing Bloodlust, but let's just hold on to it. But we will pop our Ascendants. We have this many mobs. Gotta be ready to press something. Alright, it looks like somebody's doing some damage in this group. I don't know who it was, but we just evaporated that stuff. Looks like it might be our hunter friend. I don't know if this is going to be our experience in all of these normal dungeons, but they seem pretty dang easy. I don't know if it's because these guys are just really good and everyone's playing alts, or dungeons are just really easy, but here we are. I'm just going to press Bloodlust for our friends. Although every other one of our DPSs can Bloodlust if they wish. This guy is a test of group healing and watching out for mechanics. The one thing about bosses with really wide frontal cones, it's actually pretty good to stand right up next to them because it becomes easier to kind of get, you know, if you're caught far away from the boss right here and the boss targets you with a big cone, it is a longer distance to move. But if we're really close to the boss, it's pretty quick to go right behind him. Alright, so yeah, as I was saying about skipping through stuff in the dungeons, in any difficulty but Mythic Plus, we're not going to be required to kill any of these mobs. Anything but the 4 bosses. So you'll often find that in some of these low-level groups, people just try and avoid as much stuff as possible. And it might be a little foreign, might be a little strange, but hey. We're getting our loot quick and we can't complain about that. This tank is just going. This tank is just going. It can be a little bit disorienting if you're a newer healer and you have a team of veterans that are just slamming through the dungeon, going nuts. But, you know, they play how they want to play. We're just going to do our best. These tentacles are actually pretty nasty. And they have a mechanic where if you're not standing up right next to them, they start shooting you and doing a disease. And as a shaman, we can't actually remove disease. So it's really rough if those go out on everyone. Luckily, we killed him pretty quick. Yeah, we're blazing through this dungeon. We're already in the second boss room. Yeah, these guys know a thing or two. These guys know a thing or two. We're rushing all the way to the boss. Kind of wonder how this is going to play out, but hey, I'm not complaining. You can see anytime at the start of a fight, if I feel like there's going to be healing I need to do, I drop my Cloudburst first. Just sort of a little bit of backup to juice my heals, and then almost all of my healing casts are just going to be Riptide, Riptide, Riptide. Till I deem that people are in danger. Oh dang, they're blasting. They're blasting this guy. So this guy phases at 70 and 40, I think. But we just decided to delete the boss instantly. Fortunately, no loot for us, though. I think we have a few friends. Oh, I could have dispelled that guy. Let's go over and interrupt one of these blobs. So this pack is actually a little bit different in normal difficulty. I don't know at what point it changes, but maybe just this dungeon has some interesting things going on. Sometimes they try and remove some of the more complicated stuff for the earlier difficulties just so you don't have to deal with it. Alright, so our team's sneaking along. We're already halfway through the dungeon. We're slamming. Oh man. Alright, they're really going. Yeah, skips like these can be a little bit intimidating, but the best thing we can do is just follow as closely as we can to what our buds are doing. And then, you know, if stuff pulls or if stuff goes wrong, try not to get too flustered and just deal with it as it comes. Discovering these areas as we go. There's actually a spider that's invisible over there. And again, our party's taken quite a bit of damage, so kick nothing. Party's taking some damage, so we're gonna pop Ascendance just to juice up our heals again. When we got Ascendance going and we got Cloudburst going, pretty tough for them to die. As long as we're pressing our buttons. One of the important things about being a healer is just being ready to pop your buttons really fast. Kind of a habit as a beginner that you might have is trying to save your buttons for an emergency. You never know what's going to happen where you might need your Ascendance or your, you know, Cloudburst or your Healing Tide or whatever. But in reality, you have to press them early and often. Especially with a healer like Shaman where you have so many buttons. You have Healing Tide, you have Spirit Link Totem, you have Ascendance. Basically every single minute of the entire dungeon you have a button that you can press that does pretty good healing. Yeah, I don't know if this is how this boss was intended to be done, but we defeated it quickly enough. Oh, this ring. Actually, wait, it's only 128, so I guess these guys are leveling too? It's a little weird that it puts you in leveling dungeons when you hit max level, but I guess I don't mind it. Oh, okay, hello there. The one mechanic that mobs have in WoW, it's referred to as snapping. You can see what just happened there. Is a lot of the dungeons are pretty intricate. There's a lot of stuff going on with them, and sometimes you get in a situation where the mob doesn't even know how to get to you. You're like in like how we jumped in that pit, or maybe we're way up high on something, and the mob can't even find you. It can't even find a way to path to you, and it will do what's called snapping, where if it can't find you in a couple seconds, it'll just teleport directly on top of you. And it becomes like untargetable for a second, and it's kind of like disoriented, and then it'll start hitting you. And in some high level stuff, it can be used as a strategy, but I'd say if it happens in any of these low level dungeons, it's purely accidental. We're blasting through this dungeon. We're actually on the last boss already. We don't even have our Bloodlust up, so we nailed this out in under 10 minutes. I don't know what's going on, but our mages seem like they know what they're doing. So these tentacles, once we get up to higher difficulties, can be pretty deadly. Notice that anytime I need to move quick, my first instinct is just to press Ghost Wolf, just because it not only increases my move speed, but also stops me from getting slowed. And it's a good habit anytime you think you're in trouble to just, while you're moving and while you're sort of analyzing the situation, to just press Ghost Wolf immediately. And in an intermission like this where there's not much going on, you can just almost sit in Ghost Wolf the whole time just to ensure that your life is okay. And we're basically done. We knocked this dungeon out real quick. Not a whole lot to say about this one. Alright, so this boss does some group damage. We didn't get to see much of it here, but we'll press our buttons here. And we've defeated Plaguefall. Oh, and we got some shoulders and we got some renown. Love to see that. Another upgrade, and we're bouncing out of here. Our renown stuff we're not going to worry about too much, but eventually we're gonna want that to be high level. And yeah, here we are. We're just on our way. Let's just keep slamming the queue. Insta. Alright. This series is just going to be us slamming the queue. And hopefully we can get geared up. You know, things might get a little complicated once we get to Mythic. That's because we can't just use a queue to find us a group automatically, and the difficulty goes up quite a bit. So, once we have to navigate our way around finding some groups, that might be the hard part. Alright, so another new dungeon. We're in the Mists of Tyrna Scythe. I'm actually a Night Fae, and in this dungeon I can open this little thing if I'm Night Fae. Looks like this guy's Night Fae too, and actually all of us are Night Fae. So I guess one thing I didn't talk about too much is my party frames will always organize, and it'll throw our tank on the top. That's why I'm always ready to know that I gotta use that. These guys do quite a bit of group damage. You can see they're putting bleeds on everyone, so I'm already sort of preparing my AoE healing. We'll use our interrupt on this guy. Yeah, I think we may end up with a different experience if we were doing this at the very beginning of an expansion, when, you know, people didn't know the dungeon, like no one knew the dungeons that well and no one had gear. But I guess this is just the experience that you get when you're playing low level dungeons this late into an expansion. So this is normally a pack that people skip in a high level dungeon, but looks like our team sort of knows that but doesn't quite know how we can get by. So we're gonna fight it. Guess I understand that. I'm gonna interrupt this guy and also put him on my focus, just in case the pack lives a while. I can interrupt him later. And throw down a capacitor too. The good habit we can get into is just throwing down that capacitor on the packs to get that free stun in. Later on we'll try and be a little bit more strategic with how we use it. But for now, if we're just using our buttons, it's good. So we're cruising along. Again, same thing. I don't really worry. I'm not worrying too much about what spells we're interrupting, but I saw that guy using a spell, so I interrupted him. Set him on my focus so we can get him later. And then we're blasting. So 3 targets is where Chain Lightning is really, really good. Chain Lightning will only bounce to 3 or 2 or 3 total. So anytime we got 3 targets, we're blasting. But this is another vine area that we can open as a Night Fae, and it allows us access to these mushrooms. When we click on these, it gives us a little buff that increases our main stat by 10%, which is really nice. In a low level dungeon, this will last most of the dungeons, so it'll be a nice little boost. Hopefully you get the general gist of what's going on here, you know. Walk into a pack, Riptide our tank, Earth Shield our tank, you know, maybe put down a cloud burst if things look deadly. These guys look like they're doing some damage, so we'll drop our healing tide. Healing tide isn't a super impactful button. It's got a 3-minute cooldown, so you might think it's real powerful, but it's just a little tiny boost to our healing. Alright, so this is what's being referred to in WoW as a council fight. Multiple sort of bosses. The goal of this fight is we're just going to focus on the tree guy down. But again, not to forget our responsibilities. Earth shield the tank. Riptide the tank. And then once we finish off the tree stuns the guy, and then we attack the guy. Seems like our team knows what's going on somewhat. Our lava burst is actually blasting. So there's a really nice trinket in this dungeon. It is called the Unbound Changeling. This is a trinket that we'll be hunting most of the time playing the game at as high as an item level as we can. But this is a really cool part of the dungeon. Probably one of my favorite parts of dungeons in Shadowlands is the Mist Maze. It's almost like the Lost Woods in Zelda. You sort of navigate through this maze, and you can use these little pedestals or whatever to see which way it is. I'm not going to go into too much detail about solving the maze. I do have a video that goes over it, if you want to check that out. Looks like our bear, while he's tanking everything, is walking around and figuring out the maze. You can also use some sort of add-ons and weak auras for helping you figure it out, but for now we're flying blind. Now, one thing to note about the maze is that you can't be fighting mobs and going through the door. You have to eliminate all the mobs in the room. One good thing to do as a healer is to walk over and check out the pedestals real quick. So you can see I have the habit of doing that. We'll let our we'll help our friends out navigating a little bit. Okay, so that's the right way there. If you ever see, as a small little tip, if you ever see the very first one has 3 different attributes, and then you see a path with the complete 3 opposite attributes, then the one with the 3 opposites is the way that you want to go. You don't need to see any of the other ones. Let's see if we can impress these guys a little bit with our skills walking through the door. They're kind of hanging out trying to figure it out. Gonna be this way, I think. Let's just say I've navigated through here a couple times in my life, so I might be able to figure it out quicker than the average civilian. See a guy casting a spell. We'll use our interrupt there. Okay, let's walk around and try and solve this maze. I think it's this way. And you saw how I sort of used that 2 opposite strategy there. So this boss has a similar mechanic to the maze, except for it'll spawn 4 illusions, and one of the illusions will be the one that you have to kill based off of the game. It's gonna be this one right here. I'm gonna put a healing rain over here, maybe to help my team find it. Looks like they're on the right track though. Gosh, that thing died so fast. These bosses are really falling over in these normal dungeons. Once we get to some harder stuff, we'll really start to see the mechanics. It's going to be this one again. But you don't really get to see too much. Like, you'll notice I use my Cloudburst Totem and my Healing Rain there as soon as that intermission starts. That's because it'll pulse damage to everybody at once, and the longer you stay in the intermission, then it'll keep doing more and more damage. So I'm sort of already, like, I'm autopilot, you know, getting ready to ramp up and heal, but there's not too much healing that we need. The one thing I guess I forgot to look at before is there's these little respawn checkpoints that you can activate if you're a Night Fae in these dungeons, which we are, even though we don't have our Night Fae ability yet. This guy's a caster, and we'll interrupt him and set him on our focus. You guys are doing some big damage. Things are going quick. I keep forgetting to loot mobs. I'm definitely not used to looting stuff. Don't have very much gold, so it's certainly a good idea for me to be looting stuff, but oh well. Big old swirly, we'll get out of that. Yeah, this can be a little scary part of this dungeon. These Reavers are flying around. Luckily, this stuff isn't too hard. Since we got 2 packs at once, let's use our Ascendants just to make sure we can keep up with the heals. Bear one flying. We'll use our Cap Totem there too. We're kind of owning, remembering to use all of our buttons. I'm sure there's a lot more buttons that we could be using, but hey. As long as we're remembering to use some when we're happy. Alright, let's go loot. Let's go loot. We gotta remember to keep looting. Now this shift changer guy, he knows what's going on. Oh, he's like skinning the mobs. He's like a skinner profession. He's just skinning all the mobs. Uh-oh. So we're gonna use Spirit Link Totem here. Anytime if one of your party members falls really, really low, really, really fast, it's a good idea to drop that Spirit Link Totem. Just to get him up really quick. Another thing we're going to do, since we have to do a lot of movement here, we can press our Spirit Walker's Grace. This means that, you know, let's say we need to press Healing Surge while we're walking around. We probably should have pressed it quite a bit earlier than we did, but well, at least we're remembering to hit our buttons. And we're slamming. Again, another sub 10-minute dungeon. Looks like our team's mentally preparing, and here we go. This guy shoots out a lot of stuff you have to dodge. I think he's got some spells that we want to interrupt too. To link people together, and you gotta run far away to break the link. Yeah, we're slamming. This is easy. You can sort of see how he's facing this way with the link. Once you see him start casting it, you can even start pre-moving away from the guy. Again, not super important at this level, but as we start to get into higher stuff, just kind of thinking, oh, nice, a weapon. You love to see the weapon. And another renown. Bam. We're 159, so we've gotten like, what, 10 item levels or something? So far, just doing a few dungeons. All right, we got our signature ability. I know my way around the sanctum. Nice. That is exactly the button I wanted to press. Join the Night Fae Covenant. Okay, so I think we actually managed to skip through some of the campaign stuff, which is nice. Oh, alright, so we're in a new dungeon. I wonder if it's purposefully given us new dungeons every time. Either way, we're in the Sanguine depths. Looks like we have another Vulpira friend. Ooh, our friend's getting... Wow, this guy has all consumables on. So this guy's using a flask, a verse food, an augment rune. This guy... I have a feeling these guys are gonna blast. If our tank is using like consumables and spending gold on these runs, I'm hopeful. Oh yeah, our tank is doing a lot of damage. He's item level 200. Looks like this is gonna be another free ride. Which, not the most educational content for the video, but you know, this is what it is, you know. One thing that I'm being conscious about is I'm keeping this account super secret. No one's gonna know about this account. I think I'm gonna do almost the entire series and record all of it before I post any of it. Just to make sure that, you know, as much as I appreciate your guys' help and wanting to get involved, I want this to be as natural as possible to what the experience of someone who's starting off new is like. But that being said, hey, sometimes you get carried even if you don't know nobody. So there's a lot of mobs, and I'm doing a little bit of healing, and I'm dropping my Cloudburst, but our tank's health doesn't seem like it's moving, because he seems to be very geared for this. Again, not going to complain about. We'll just keep moving forward. One important thing, you see how our tank is moving forward and he's not quite fighting the mobs yet? You got to be careful that you do the same. If your tank is gathering stuff up, you see what happens here? Our Warlock didn't necessarily get the memo and he's kind of doing his own thing. And now our tank's like trying to do other stuff. And so generally speaking, you got to have patience. You gotta wait for the tank to group up, whatever the tank wants to group up, and then you can sort of press your buttons. Although interrupt, our wind shear is a good button to press. Now our tank has everything grouped up. Gotta make the tank's life as easy as possible when we can. This is a big boy over here. Oh, didn't do much damage. What level can we queue heroic dungeons? I don't want to get into the heroic dungeons so we can get out of some of these leveling ones. I feel like we might see a lot of people like helping their friends. Because it's like not, we're in the leveling dungeons, you know. Oh wow, all these guys know what's going on. So that's where one person gets charged and it spreads the damage off of everyone who's in between. So you kind of want everyone to stack up for that. Oh nice, we got a ring too. Let us throw this one on. Again, I'm not paying too much attention to my gear, you know, I'm just looking at my item level, seeing that it's an upgrade, seeing that we go up. Throwing it on. Yeah, we're blasting through this. I have a feeling this is going to be a fairly easy dungeon. We can probably just spend most of our time either DPSing or just healing our teammates that are not our tank. I assume our tank has this more or less under control. Oh yeah, I put down my healing rain, but we don't care. We're going. So these chains here, you have to run far enough away from the mob to break the chains when it goes on you. Now we have 2 of these mobs, which is a little tough. But our team's damage is immense. you can do /KB, and it opens this window, and then you can mouse over any of your buttons and assign keybinds. So that's how I'm doing that. You can also just, you know, use the options menu normally. One thing I want to point out is, so far we haven't had a single person say anything. We've done, what, 4 or 5 runs or something? I don't think I've seen a single person type in the chat yet. I guess, I don't know what I expect them to say, but... Not like a what's up. Maybe next dungeon I'll give them a what's up. Alright. We got lots of mobs here, so we'll press Ascendance. Even though everyone's health is fine, you know, we're just playing it safe. We see lots of stuff. We press a big cooldown to be ahead of the game. You know how it is. We're trucking through this dungeon. We're on the second boss. Guy I think has some group damage and some single target damage. You can see this beam that he put out. On normal, it doesn't really do that much damage. Didn't seem to be too scary. I'm just gonna press Bloodlust. I think I forgot to press it at some point in the dungeon, so I guess we just press it here. It's hard when every boss dies in 10 seconds to make very good use of our Bloodlust buff. But alright. Even I forget to use Bloodlust sometimes. So again, see how our tank's gathering? I'm just chilling, letting him gather, letting him do his thing. Then once he plants, once he decides that he's gonna stop. Obviously, if we think the tank is in big danger, and we think we need to heal him up, then, you know, we can. But for the most part, we gotta be careful with blasting too early. That eye beam. Oh, I think we have to stand in this. I guess it didn't matter too much that we didn't stand in it. We'll use our healing tide here since people seem like they're dipping a little bit low. Bam. We're stacking up the gold. We started with 500 and now we have 2,000. We also have some augment runes we can sell for a little bit of gold too, and we can sell all this stuff. Okay, our tank actually said something in chat. He said stay. And that's very common as well if the tank wants to run ahead and group up mobs and bring them back. It can be a good way to gather up ranged mobs and casters to sort of aggro them all and then run behind a door. We'll use our cap totem again. Especially again on ranged mobs and casters, it's a good idea to throw that stun out. Luckily for us, the pack dies in 4 seconds, so... We're trucking. Yeah, I want to see what item level I need to be to queue heroic dungeons. It might be... Heroic dungeons might be a little bit of a grind, I think. Because I don't think the item level difference between normal and heroic is that big. So I think we'll end up having to get mostly a full set of normal gear and then go into heroic and then get mostly a full set of heroic gear. But who knows? Maybe we'll find some good stuff along the way that'll help us out. Another concern I have is if this character gets linked somehow to my main account. I'm gonna try not to, but it may do it automatically. Oh, I don't think I have any of my add-ons installed. So you can use an add-on that sort of tracks people's progress if you mouse over their names or whatever, and it'll show you a little tooltip. And that's what I was kind of doing there. I was kind of mousing over everyone on my party trying to see, but I don't think my add-on is enabled for that. Trying to keep my UI as clean and basic and starter as possible. But I'm very excited to get our Night Fae ability. Now we'll be able to talk about that and use that a little bit. And keep in mind that, you know, while this is easy for us, you know, this is pretty dang easy for these guys too. It's not like, you know, it may feel like as a healer we're getting carried through the dungeon or whatever, but the difficulty of this stuff is just so low as long as you can navigate your character and you kind of know your keybinds and stuff. This is mostly just like an intro sort of difficulty. Which again can be a little bit intimidating if you just, you know, you're just playing WoW for the first time, but once you get a handle on things, it's not too bad. Nice, I'm remembering the loot. We don't have our bloodlust. Maybe we would have if I would have used it at the beginning, but... Okay, so... has those big arrows on those guys, so we're gonna run away from him. Looks like it's doing some sort of AoE around. Now one of them's on us. We're going to try and run far away from our friends as we can. And we're done. Every boss is just dead in like 20 or 30 seconds. Can't complain, I guess. Another pair of pants. Unlucky, we already have one of those. Oh, they're saying thanks. This is a nice group of friends. Okay, let's get out of here. Let's see if we can get our Night Fae ability. Probably should have done this before the first dungeon that we did, but, you know, we got so many abilities and buttons. See, what level do we need for Heroic? 170. So we need 170, and we're currently 161. So we're about halfway there. Which isn't too bad. A couple hours of games.
You have achieved...
through the campaign. The cutscene. Let's see, can we get our Covenant ability real quick? I think we have our ability now. Alright, so we're in the Halls of Atonement. Let's test it out here. So we aim it on the ground, hit a lot of mobs. Nice. Blasting. So the Night Fae ability for Shaman's pretty cool. You throw it on the ground, you sort of do a lot of damage to everybody. Okay, so we have some weak auras going on. Or maybe it's my my bigwigs actually. Let me turn that off real quick. I think we'll be fine if I can edit that. Only because that'll be a little annoying while we're hold on. Crash. Deadly thrust. No sound. Okay, I'm gonna keep some of my other sounds on there. I may figure out at a later day how to change my bigwigs profiles so that I have different sounds on different guys, but for now you'll just have to deal with some of the sounds. Hopefully it's not too bad. It's actually a pretty good idea. I would recommend assigning different sounds to abilities, and it sort of helps you keep track in your head, like you'll know when stuff is going off. But it might sound a little obnoxious in the front half of this dungeon, just because there's a whole lot of stuff going on. We're blasting. Our tank is 240 item level again, and through. I don't know if this is a way that people farm renown, or if they're farming augment runes, or what they're farming, but whatever it is they're farming, it seems to attract tanks that are very high item level. So we'll probably need to do almost zero healing to this tank. Our tank is just already going ahead. We haven't even finished these mobs and he's already going on. I have the feeling this tank could probably solo the entire dungeon if he wanted to. We got lots of mobs here, so we'll press our Ascendants. Again, we want to make sure we have our Cloudburst down before we press the Ascendants, because that initial heal will sort of fuel it. Yeah, our sound effects are going nuts. We got lots of different mobs in here. So our Night Fae ability. We use it on the ground. It hits a lot of mobs. It does damage to them. And it stores up that damage we did, and we can use it later to heal as well. So it's sort of like a two-part ability. It's pretty nice, actually, as a healer, because we can still use it to contribute to our team and do a little bit of damage. But at the same time, it's not like a damage-only ability. It also does some healing, too. Blast in a way. You know, we don't really know too much about what any of these mechanics do yet. We haven't been forced to learn what they do. Alright, our tank's just going into the boss. We'll press our Bloodlust. Notice here, this boss does this frontal slam on the tank that hits everything around. So you see that habit that I did without even really thinking about it. As soon as the boss was pulled, I ran directly behind the boss. Not directly, like, you know, on his butt, but in this vicinity, just to make it, you know, I'm as far away from that tank frontal slam as possible. Oh, man. Like, yeah, so weird. So it's putting us, who's like a fresh 60, in with people who aren't even max level, and in with people who are, like, you know, massively geared, like, in raid gear, essentially. Some sort of debuff is on our tank. We don't know what it is yet, but we'll dispel it. Ooh, our tank's going big. We'll just keep dispelling whatever this is on our tank. We don't have a keybind yet for our purge. Maybe we should do one of those. Let's do Flash KB. I can't do it in combat. Okay, so
4, 3, 2.
now you can see I have a lot of different timers and sounds and all this stuff going on for this dungeon setup. Just because there's a lot of complicated mechanics going on when we're talking about the higher end. So this curse we're going to dispel ourselves. We can use our little Night Fae Soul Shape ability to get out. If we did get hit by that, it's not the end of the world. I think we have gotten hit by that already. And we're blasted. So you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking that the first dungeon that we did, I think, was Halls. And I want to say I had all of the sound effects of, like, all the abilities on, but it just didn't even cross my mind when I was talking. Maybe I did talk about it, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just going mad. I think that might be the case. So these loyal Stoneborns, these are mobs that will fight you. However, if you have a Venthyr in your party, you can press your extra action button and it'll capture them. So now you can see that they're fighting for us. They're very, very strong. Not only do they do decent damage, but they also give you an aura that reduces damage by 10%. So whenever possible in this dungeon, you want to have a Venthyr and you want to grab all those friends. No loot. Unblood Amethyst. I kind of want to ask that guy for this trinket, just to help us along in our journey. Our stun totem again. Yeah, we basically don't need to do anything in this dungeon. 240 I think is the highest friend we've gotten so far. So with this boss, he turns these statues, and you can sort of see which way they're facing is the way they're going to get pushed. That wasn't the best example. Easy. Oh, we got a helm. It was all worth it. It's all worth it. What's this? Not change equip status in combat. Oh, we're actually in combat with those mobs in that room back there. So we're gonna, I guess, leave instance group. Maybe that'll fix it. Bam. Okay. Now let's equip our mask. So this is a passive skill tree that we get. Or passive skill tree. It's a passive, I guess, passive tree of different like attributes and things that we can select. There's 3 different unique trees with each covenant, so 12 in total. And then each one we can also place some class specific ones as well. You can see some of our powers here. So let's we can press activate to turn it on. And then as we level up our renown, we can click down the path. So now that we've sort of been explained what's going on, we get our first what's called conduits. These are the class specific ones that we can slot in there. So anytime you get one of these, you want to run over to your soulbind tree here, Covenant Hall, and use them. So the big ones that we care about are potencies. These are the ones that are going to directly increase the power of our heals and our damage stuff. And for instance, this one reduces the cooldown of our Covenant ability by 25 seconds. Very good. So we're going to first activate this slot, then put it in the slot, then apply. And, oh wow. Okay, and we can get this one. So we only have one conduit that can go in this slot, so we're just going to throw it in there. I think we're good. Let's take this quest. Turn to Lady Moonberry, alright. So I just hatched an idea. So I think one of the first things we're going to do with our gold is we're going to buy a BOE in the auction house. Turn to High Boulevard, 4 Dragon, and Orbo. So here's what we're going to do. This is actually a cool Valpyra thing that we can do. So our Hearthstone is set in Orbos, and we're actually going to do this. We're going to put our Valpyra camp in... Oh, we only can do it outside. So we have to do it outside of the Night Fae Hall. Pinky Toaster. We'll make our camp right here outside, and now we have a checkpoint that we can do that will go to best icon there. So we can use our Valpyra ability to go back to our Covenant Hall, and then we can use our Hearthstone to go back to Oribos. We're gonna go back to Oribos. That's where our quest is telling us. Actually, maybe do I want to get these quests real quick? See if I can. Let's just grab whatever we can grab here. Silk, we don't care about that. Our time is limited. Let's just hit enter. Not troll anybody. Alright, so one thing I'm going to comment about this dungeon is this dungeon can be a bit intensive on the CPU. There's a lot of like sky stuff going on, so sorry if you see some effects. I try and do what I can to minimize it on my end, but there's only so much I can. So yeah, thinking about our plan here, we're going to save up money and we're going to try and buy a BOE. either like a ring or a necklace or something that we can use to increase our item level, just to try and build up as fast as we can. I don't know how expensive they are. They might be out of our reach. Our budget is not very high. Alright, so we continue down the same path. Put an Earth Shield and Riptide on our tank. So now let's see, what is our geared friends like? So we have a 251 level warrior, which is very, very high. 251 is ridiculously high. So this guy is going to be killing everything instantaneously. So I guess here's a lesson that we can learn, since now I've done a few of these normal dungeons and I can pretty comfortably say this. This stuff is so easy and there is absolutely no pressure. So do your best to, whatever you're doing in these dungeons, to do it right. If you're, let's say you're not comfortable using your keybinds, or you don't like certain talents but you think they might be good, and think of this as the practice zone. Like, watch, I'm just gonna go up here and I'm gonna stand here and I'm gonna do nothing. I'm gonna do absolutely nothing. My team is barely taking any damage and the pack is already deleted, right? So don't put pressure on yourself to try and perform, or worry about anything when you're doing these normal dungeons. Just sort of use them as a testing ground to learn about your character, get more comfortable with your UI. This is the testing ground, if you will. And yeah, this may be the fastest run yet with 2 geared warriors on our team. Looks like they're quite impatient. They're making sure the tank knows that they're ready to go. Okay, so one of our warriors has left. So our tank is back there. The high level warrior just decided to run forward anyway, since we don't even necessarily need a tank. He's just gonna, whatever he's doing, maybe he's leveling up his covenant stuff or what, but he's just decided to continue on without anybody else. And the same is true if you're any other role, right? Not just a healer, but a tank or a DPS. You can see how relaxed these dungeons are, and how no pressure. If you're a tank, if you're trying to learn how to tank, don't get flustered. You can see, you'll be paired with some monkeys that are rushing ahead or doing whatever. That's totally fine. Everyone can play how they play. Might be a little bit disorienting for you, but at the same time it'll be, you'll be quick to learn if you're having an open mind and just kind of paying attention and trying to learn the right way. So yeah, we're blasting ahead. There's almost not really anything to talk about here. You see this guy using a spell, we're gonna interrupt him. These squad leaders have this aura that reduces the damage of all of their allies from any AoE attacks. So whenever you see one of these leaders, you want to focus them down right away. Again, as a healer, it's not necessarily our responsibility. There's only so much damage that we can contribute, but just good to know. So I believe there's some invisible cats here. Not that there'll be any, not that there's any problem if we run into those, but they may set up an ambush there. I love the, Valpyra front flip. I haven't regularly played a character that can front flip. That's pretty cool. It just makes you want to jump around all the time. Our covenant ability here. Now with the reduced cooldown. Oh, we're blasting. Look at our damage. We're doing like 2.5k DPS. Oh, our tank is just... It's not even our tank, actually. This is just our warrior. Our warrior's just running ahead. He just says, you know what, I'm gonna go over here and kill this stuff. Now I'm really motivated to pick everything up and sell stuff because buying like a merchant. Oh, merchant. Get all these greens out of our inventory. Okay, well, we tried. I want to say the item we want to buy is like maybe 20k gold, somewhere in that neighborhood. So it'll be a really big boost to our item level too. Maybe there are even cheaper ones. Honestly, I might even just buy whatever the cheapest one I can get. And I could definitely be speeding this stuff up too. There's been lots of item drops that have dropped for like these people in the runs that clearly don't need them. You know, this warrior or whatever. And I could have easily, you know, said, hey buddy, do you need that? And most people are usually kind enough to give it to you if they don't need it. So this boss is going to put these pretty nasty bleeds out, but only at 1% at a time. And on this difficulty, not too bad. This dungeon is really cool aesthetically, like the first couple times you do it, but eventually it just becomes like, okay, I'm ready to do the dungeon. I want to fight the mobs now. I don't want to be flying through the air. Here we are, flying through the air. Well, we're, I think, essentially at the halfway point by now. See what we decide to do. So you can actually sneak along the side here and avoid almost all this stuff, but I'm not necessarily going to force any of that on these guys. If they want to do it, they can do it. I'll just follow along. I think it's important while we're learning just to sort of follow along and do whatever these guys want to do. Obviously, we have our own way of doing things, and we're big sweaty nerds, so we know what's right, but looks like our mage brought along some friends. At some point when you're doing these skips on packs that die in 2 seconds anyway, kind of might put into question, well, it might just be faster to kill the mobs anyway than trying to worry about skipping them. Yeah, this warrior is doing a very large amount of damage. We'll use our cap totem here. Wait, did we use it already? Yeah, we used it already. We'll just use an interrupt then. These guys have so little health. 8,000 health these little guys have. I can like pretty easy solo them as a healer. Look at that. I'm doing like 80% of their health with one spell as a healer. These guys in these normal difficulties are so low. I think you guys get the idea by now. This boss is very similar to the second boss. He's gonna put these debuffs on one individual person. Kind of gotta watch where it's going and make sure you're giving focus healing to that guy. And I'm being maybe a little bit riskier. You know, with all this stuff going on the screen, it might be a little bit intimidating for you guys to be, you know, throwing out DPS abilities, but don't worry about that. You can see how, you know, my DPS is so low on there. It's not important really. I'm just sort of doing it to do it. So we actually can't go up on these angels because we're in combat. You can see that one of my add-ons here is popping off. It's like, hey, there's someone mob using these spells. So these Goliaths get charged by these puddles, and it gives them infinite energy. So once they don't even really move, they just keep casting this ability over and over again. We're gonna come over here and interrupt him, and hopefully he just wants to stand here, and I guess we can just shoot him down real quick. Alright, we should be good now. Let's mount and run over. Sometimes I'm a little bit lazy on my shaman and I don't always mount. Hold on, let's loot this guy. Oh yeah, give me the beans, give me the gold, give me all that. I really want more of those bags. The very first dungeon I did, I got a bag that gave me augment runes and it gave me gold. And I really want that because that's going to be my ticket to how I'm buying an item. So let's do a little bit of a checkup once we get back. We're not going to queue into a dungeon right away since we seem to be getting queues very, very fast. We'll take a look at what our gold goal will be. Get another nice angel ride here. Alright, so we're pulling all these guys. Probably not something I'd recommend doing in a higher difficulty queue, but when you got a warrior that's blasting everything, it's quite alright. Nice, and now we're on the last boss. Check out, let's look at this warrior's gear. See what he's got going on. Yeah, so he's got almost all entirely mythic raid level stuff. 252 is for the most part, the highest level stuff you can get. You can get some higher level stuff in a couple pieces. What this guy's doing, I'm not sure, but so in this intermission we have to grab these orbs and bring them in and power the spear. But slowly we're getting pushed off the platform. Also, you can see it can be a little bit intimidating, right? Everyone's got all these debuffs, all this stuff's going out, people are taking damage. Probably not so scary now because you know, it's normal. But eventually this, you know, mechanics like those might start to get a little bit scary. We'll use Bloodlust, because why not? Oh, nice. Another piece. So we can see we get roughly like one piece per run. The warrior said thanks all. The guy's full mythic raid gear and he tells us thanks after doing more damage than all of us combined in the run. Thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I'll be releasing regular episodes, so make sure you subscribe to my channel if you aren't already and click the bell to get notified when the next episode is out. I also come out with regular guides for healers in World of Warcraft, as well as videos explaining UI and all other sorts of things. If you enjoy content like this, I'd also highly recommend coming to check out my stream at twitch.tv/yumytv, where we're always gaming there. The link is in the description, and happy keying.